Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Dark Roast. I'm Donna Stroll, and I'm here with the always lovely and talented Rose Short. And today's topic of discussion is that awful, terrible thing called imposter syndrome and why you feel behind, and also how to maybe navigate that some.
Yes, imposter syndrome is in every profession, but it's especially proficient, it feels like, with content creators or online coaches.
Well, yeah, because I mean, in the internet age, we get to see everybody, but not necessarily how they are, but how they want to be, right? So you've constantly got all these mirrors shining back at you that are not reality, right?
Yep.
So, I mean, what is imposter syndrome really, right? It's like you feel like you're pretending to be an expert. You're talking about things, but inside you're like, oh my God, what if they all know I'm a fraud? And right. And this happens to people who have multi years of experience just as much as it happens to the new and beginning marketers. So don't feel like it's just you. But it can really stop you. It can force you to stop and think, who am I to recommend this? Or, why should people listen to me? And it's pretty easy when you're online marketing to make you feel like everybody else has this down pat and yet you're stumbling in the dark, right? So there are reasons for that, like go on Instagram and you see somebody who's got that perfect grid that looks so posh, and or people who are saying, oh, I made $10,000 or $20,000, or make six figures in 6 minutes, and you're like, if you can do it, why can't I? And the reality is they're not,
Mhm.
or they have a massive team behind them and they've been doing it forever, right? Really, imposter syndrome is the concept that everybody is either better than you or knows more than you. And that's just not the case.
Yeah. You see, there's a lot of people who are like, I started 3 months ago and I've already made this much, right? A lot of people that they get that 3 month in their head, and we've talked about it before, the 3 month death date, where it's like, oh, I didn't make it, so I need to stop. And it kind of stems from that as well. Especially if you've been in it for a while and you see someone new making bigger, affiliate payouts than you, or, they just had more success, more leads more quickly because maybe they had a bigger following, but you're not factoring in those things. So we see it a lot, like I said, across all industries, but it's very prevalent on the internet just because it's so easy, like you were saying, to compare yourself to somebody else because it's there, right? And all digital marketers eventually kind of intertwine and know each other. And so it's really hard with social media to get around it. Obviously, the easiest way is to stop comparing yourself. And remember that people show, the highlights, they show the good sides. They don't always show, the meltdowns or the months where they're really struggling or the fights with their partner when they first were starting out, things like that.
Yeah.
And the algorithms are going to help push the most, polished examples because that's the ones that people spend a lot of time on SEO, and they're split testing different thumbnails and they're doing all this stuff. They're not necessarily doing that with the messy ones that they think nobody wants to see. And so it gives the illusion that they had overnight success. But we've talked about that before as well, where overnight success is usually the culmination of years of struggling.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the internet is basically a comparison machine, right? You pop on and you get to see all the perfectly edited, all the perfectly beautiful, you know, and brag posts and all those things. And your brain goes, cool, I'm behind. I'm chasing my own ass, right? Like it's like, no, you're not.
Mhm.
No,
Yep.
you're not. Because it's not true. Um, Even like when you're recording videos, people are changing their clothes in between their videos. They're videoing, 15 things at once, and then they're just like, swapping out their clothes and stuff like that. And so don't assume that they have all the time in the world. A lot of meal prep people will spend all day cooking one day and then have all these amazing videos. No, they're not making this beautiful dinner every day. They've made them all in one day, right?
Mhm.
So there's lots of tricks and tips and stuff like that. So it's pretty easy to get overwhelmed when you see all of that stuff out there. One of the biggest traps is comparing yourself on day 2 or, month 3 to somebody who's been at it for 7 years, because you forget, you don't see all the people working behind the scenes to help them get where they are. Right? They did the struggles. And now sometimes they'll tell you their struggle story, but it's really hard to relate when you see them all, buttoned down and looking good and everything's in order. And you're like, yeah, sure you were. Right. Sometimes you got to scroll all the way back to see. And that might be a good exercise for you, is to actually literally scroll back and see where they actually started. Now, sometimes they might have cleaned that up and it's gone, but a lot of times they don't. And so if you are patient and willing to go and, do that deep dive, you'll see that when they started, it wasn't awesome. They were just as chaotic and just as messy, and that's a good thing. And the messy behind the scenes, sometimes they will provide that in their stories, right? You'll get to see some of the chaos in their stories. So if you really want to see some reality versus the polished what they're putting out there, maybe check out their stories and see some of their chaos. Follow them on maybe some other platforms where they're more relaxed, right? Maybe they're super posh on Instagram because that's their main platform, but they also have a Threads where they talk a little bit more and have a little bit more freedom with their chaos, or Facebook or TikTok, wherever, it doesn't really matter. But maybe one of their other platforms is a little less polished, so you get to see some of behind the scenes, right? You can easily fall into it if you're trying to do the comparison.
Yeah, and
Right?
sometimes the opposite is true too. Sometimes someone just naturally has way more confidence than they should. And so they're DMing you or whatever, they sound like they know what they're talking about, and then you go look at their profile and you're like, your stuff's all over the place. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I mean, confidence is one of those things. It can be taught, it can be learned, but some people are just naturally have it, right? And not everybody deserves to have the confidence, but the reality is you cannot put pride before action, because pride without action is it has no value. But I've seen so many people stop moving forward because they're afraid of being seen as less than, or being seen to fail. Failing is just learning, right? Don't ever be afraid to fail. I mean, if you put pride before your action, it will stop you so many times from being able to do what you need to do. So,
Yeah, and
yeah.
fear of failure is definitely one of the psychological impacts behind imposter syndrome. On the flip side of that, fear of success, which is a
Mhm.
real theme that people do struggle with, right? Yeah, same. That can be just as debilitating as the fear of failure. Perfectionism, we see this a lot with people who, they want to make sure they have all the information and they never start. People pleasing, right? They're not okay with the bot comments and the comment farms we've talked about, so they want to make sure that they're not offending anybody or that their content can't be attacked. But no matter what you post, it can be attacked, I promise.
Yeah.
And then lack of representation, right? We saw this a lot in when we were first starting out, right? Because they were teaching people like, oh, go in the groups and friend everybody and DM everybody. And we're like, yeah, as women, we don't like getting random DM'd. Like, this is
No, it's
not,
actually really, really gross.
yeah.
But yeah,
So,
and I mean, there's lack of representation for all different sections, right? I mean,
mhm.
let's face it, unless you're, well, I mean, unless you're straight, white, and male, it
And an
does,
extrovert.
yes, and an extrovert, then those lack of representation starts to stack, right? So depending on who you are and what your core group is, but that lack of representation is a positive thing if you spin it, because that means there's people out there who feel like you. I
Yeah.
think it's really important to remember that however you're feeling right now, when you're, thinking, I don't have the skills, or why should people listen to me? You are not alone,
Mhm.
right? Or there's no one out there that looks like me or acts like me. Yes, there is. It's very, you'd be surprised. The world is very small and also very big. And the nice thing about the internet is it allows you to connect with people who are like-minded. And so that's an opportunity for you. All these things are always opportunities, even if they feel like barriers. So
Yeah.
now there are some tools that you can sort of incorporate into your life that will help you beat imposter syndrome. The number one is done is better than perfect, right? That's a big one because that pride before the action, this is where you toss it to the curb because done is better than perfect. And you can spend forever trying to make something perfect so that you don't feel like a fraud, or at least you think you don't look like a fraud. But you're just wasting a lot of energy and time. So done is definitely better than perfect.
Yeah, 100%. And collect your receipts, right? So like you should have your wins and your low moments separated so that you can make that evergreen content and whatnot. Like you can screenshot your kind messages or reviews of your coaching program or any of those kind of things, metrics like that. And of course milestones, right? So like YouTube milestones, if you're with vidIQ for YouTube, it'll tell you when you've hit milestones. You can screenshot those, you can hold on to them, date them and whatnot. I think the date actually comes up when they send you the little award. So you can, use that as a like, oh, looking back 3 years ago when like I was excited for this and now I'm at this. And of course, like the positive comments, right? Because we get so fixated on the negatives and the people attacking, especially for women, people attacking our looks because that's always the go-to, or our voices or whatever it is. But keeping those positive comments to, spin and repost and use as motivation for other people is just as important as sharing the struggle stories.
Yeah, and the other thing about those receipts is when you're feeling like you're not it, you can go back and look at those and give yourself a lift as well and say,
Yeah.
hey, you know what? There are people who actually do believe in me and do appreciate what I'm putting out there and, do think I am doing a good job. So maybe I'm not a fraud, right? And repetition is important because it does help breed confidence, right? The more you do something, the better you get at it, the more confident you get at it. Again, confidence isn't something that starts in the beginning for most people. It's something that comes after experience and practice, right? The more
Yeah.
practiced you get at it, then the more confident you get at it. So, you don't walk in to public speaking going, yeah, I'm everything. Hi, puppers. Isn't she beautiful?
She's hearing people in the hallway, so she's getting a little vocal.
Yeah, that's our puppy break. And then, like, another one is to create before you consume. Set a
Yeah.
specific. Yeah, so this is important because it's really easy to get into a scroll hole and go, I'll never be good enough. My stuff is never that good, right? So create your content first before you go and view other people's, right? You can view other people's to see what you want to do next, not to compare yourself to them and to stop you from, actually doing the content.
Hey. Yeah. I know, I heard him. Hey, enough.
The next
No.
one is for you.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so use comparison as data versus judgment, right? Like, I love my data.
Yeah.
So when you do find a video you like, look at it, what do you like about it? Is it something you could replicate? Is it something you could have fun with? Or even, Stitch or Duo if it's TikTok. And then like, how can you adapt that into your content without blatantly stealing it? And what can you ignore?
He's okay. I can
Right?
barely hear.
Okay. Sometimes like maybe there's 2 points of a video you really like and the rest of it you hate. That's fine. You can ignore that, but save that video, take the points you like, and it can help you further your content without falling into that judgment trap.
Yeah. And then this is one I think everybody should do, whether they're a creator or not, and that is have a social media detox. Mute people who trigger that comparison feeling in you, without guilt, right? You're allowed to turn people off. If somebody's being really unpleasant to you in real life, you can walk away, right? You don't have to engage. And curate your feed. It's your feed. right? So if you don't want to see certain things that make your life harder, that really trigger that imposter syndrome, then you can change your feed so that they're not on it, right? And that's okay. I, I mean, it's important to be able to go and look and see what's out there, but not at the detriment of your own mental health or your own abilities to move forward, right? As you grow and as you get more confident, maybe you add different people back in or you don't, right?
Yeah.
Again, it's your feed. That's the nice thing about it. Like, if you don't want to talk to your neighbor, don't talk to your neighbor, you know? This, so I think we think that online that somehow we have to accept the bombardment that comes at us, and we really do not. So
Yeah. Yeah, you gotta remember too, like, people, they'll share the flash, right? Or they'll share what they think is gonna get a lot of engagement. Sometimes that's the, controversial takes, stuff like that. But sometimes those posts are exaggerated. Sometimes they're not really being honest with how long they've been in the space. It doesn't mean you're behind.
yeah,
It just means maybe you're being slightly more authentic and realistic with what you're putting out there. We talked about it a lot a couple of years ago where so many creators had really almost fallen into the hypnotic track or trap of, the whole like, oh, in 3 months that you could be here. Like, I learned this in 3 months, and like 3 months was kind of, again, the trigger date. And so many people were starting being told that, it was easy, it was passive, it was gonna only take 3 months to get started. And that's why a lot of people were getting upset and dropping off, because they were sold false promises from these creators who were, just wanting to follow that same kind of trend that everyone else is following. So it's okay
yeah.
to look at the trend and go, you know what? I'm gonna be honest with you guys. No, this isn't passive. No, this isn't gonna take only 3 months. Here's the reality.
Yeah, I mean, 3 months will get you your basics. Most people are not going to be 3 monthers, right? Most people are not going to have the bull by the horns in 3 months. They're going to have a good idea of, where the pasture is and how to navigate it and not get gored. But that doesn't that doesn't mean you're safe yet. But that's not a bad thing, right? If you started in any business, you learn anything, within 3 months you've got the basics down, but you're not an expert yet, not unless you've dedicated 24/7 to it and that's all you've done is eat, sleep it, and you have some level of aptitude, right? So, and it's really, yeah, I find it's very frustrating. I just get very frustrated with that concept. You and I both do, right? So you
Yeah.
want to make sure you're using your unique voice.
Yeah.
Okay, that's really important because people are trusting you, not necessarily what you're saying. They need to trust you first because we've been lied to a lot, right? Or we've been exaggerated to a lot. Like even with the income claims, someone tells you they made $1,000. That's awesome. They made $1,000. What they're not telling you is all the expenses that went in to get that $1,000, right? So just remember that when people are giving off claims and stuff like that, that they might not necessarily be giving you the full story. But if you provide the full story, if you're honest and truthful with who you are and what you're putting forward, people are going to gravitate to that simply because you're being authentically you, right? And master a skill. When you start out, make sure, and even when you're, as you grow, you're going to add new skills, but master one at a time. So whether that's your SEO or whether that's your TikTok algorithms or your storytelling or email, it doesn't really matter what it is. Just pick your lane, master that, and then you can move on to the next thing. Because the bottom line is customers buy from humans first, right? The gurus are great at talking to people, but even they can put people off simply because they don't feel real enough anymore. Like when Tony Robbins first came on the scene, he had everybody's ear. And now to a lot of people, it's a bit of a joke, right? Because he doesn't seem as real anymore because he's too far up here and he, his talks and everything else. And you see how much he's selling. So it really helps. It creates a distance. So just remember that people buy from humans first, right? Even with the flashiest advertising. So.
And remember that most gurus are self-proclaimed gurus. No one's, actually giving them that title. So
Yeah.
it doesn't necessarily mean anything.
Truth in advertising there, my dear.
It's like dog training, right? Like how do you become a dog trainer? You tell people you're a dog trainer. Hopefully you have the skills to back it up. But for a lot of this stuff, there's no real certification process, which maybe there needs to be, maybe there doesn't. I don't know. Now you can obviously get certified in different things, like we've talked about before, SEO certifications. There are digital marketing certifications and whatnot you can do, which will help add a little bit of authority to whatever you're saying. But, I know really good photographers who have imposter syndrome because they feel like they have no idea how to use a camera or no idea how to use a certain editing software. But you look at their photo and it's like, what are you talking about? This is way better than anything I can produce. So it's across all fields because I think we just get really inundated with the negative comments on the online space and taking a lot of those to heart when we really shouldn't.
Yeah. And also, I mean, on the online space, you're always going to see people who are a few steps ahead of you or, several steps ahead of you. And it's really easy to compare and contrast with yourself. And that's not fair. I've done book design for decades now. And I still feel like every time I send a cover out, it's like, oh my God, I hope they like it. And, or I see somebody else's cover artwork and I'm just like, oh, they're so much better than me. And I have to really remind myself that it's like, your clients love your work. They come back to you time after time. They do tell other people. So no, and I'm sure there's probably somebody out there who sees my cover work and goes, oh man, and does their own. And it's like, I got to remember that just because you're not for everyone doesn't mean that you're not good at what you do. Right?
Yeah.
You're not there to be there for everyone. People pleasing is a big problem for that because we want to be perfect for everyone and you can't be.
Yeah.
Right? You just can't be. Like, we're not going to be for all the young 18 to 20-year-old men coming up. That's probably not going to be our demographic. Right?
Yeah.
And that's okay. That's not, we're not trying to be. We're trying to provide information. And if some of them come to us and like our stuff, that's awesome. But we know that that's probably not our main demographic, right? And
Yeah.
that's okay.
Which again goes back to something we talked about before, which was making sure you're tailoring your content for who you want to reach. So obviously, me making content for, targeting single dads, probably not going to work out too well because I'm not a single dad. I'm not male and I don't have kids, right? So, but our information is a little more generalized. But as you're curating your content, as you're comparing, really look at, is your content speaking to who you want it to speak to? Are you comparing yourself again to somebody who has a team behind them? There's lots of different things, or someone who's maybe started off more financially well off than you, so they had more access and still have more access to some of the higher tools and things like that, right? So you have to forgive yourself a little bit and normalize the fact that, you're going to be behind certain people, but you're going to be ahead certain people as well.
Yeah, I mean, and like you were saying, our content's a little bit more generalized, but we chose our audience, which is new and beginning online and affiliate marketers who are working as solopreneurs, and who don't have all the resources at hand, because our goal is to try and help and educate without draining your bank account, and because we've been there, we know what it feels like, and we want to make sure that we can help others get that, at least get some extra support, right? In a space that can sometimes feel a little bit challenging, So you don't beat imposter syndrome by waiting for confidence. If I just do this or I just do that, you can't plan yourself out of it. You can't do all the time, do all your daily project things, and you can't scroll yourself out of it. You can scroll yourself into it though. So, you're never going to feel ready. So what you have to do is just take the plunge, keep practicing, keep doing, and you'll get better. And will it ever go 100% away? Probably not. If it's truly debilitating, then that's a time where you need to go and talk to someone and get that extra support. Don't assume that you should be able to force your way through it if it's something that is truly debilitating for you. And I will say this, if you look even on Facebook, there are groups that are solely dedicated to imposter syndrome, people who struggle with it, people at all different levels of their careers, in all different kinds of careers. And in that, even that might help you realize that you're not alone in your situation, and that you can work through it. They'll have tips and tricks, things that have helped them when they're facing big deadlines or new projects or things like that, where they get that crippling doubt and then they're able to push through it just because they have a community behind them that understands. So
yeah.
Oh, pardon me. Yeah, and like we said, consistency beats confidence every time, right? So just keep showing up.
Yeah, it's like going to the gym, right? You're not going to be confident maybe doing a pull-up or, anything like that, or using the pull-up bar or anything like that for the first time. But once you've done it and you're feeling stronger and you're, seeing results, it gets easier. It's the same with your business. It's the same with online stuff. It's anything. You just, you don't, motivation isn't what's going to get you there. The discipline's what's going to get you there. And that's true of imposter syndrome as well, and beating it and developing that confidence.
I mean, we weren't super confident the first time that we came on. We rambled and we weren't sure what's going on. And yeah, but it was messy and it was us. And now we're almost 2 full years later. So
and we're still messy, but we like our messy. So
yes, we are who we are. We're not going to pretend to be, glamorama down, So yeah. That's just not us. So that is it. And that is all for today's. Again, if you're dealing with imposter syndrome, if you just need an ear, by all means, let us know, because we've each dealt with it in our own way. I've been dealing with it forever and for always. It is just a part of my life. So, and I've decided that I'm not going to let it stop me, just like I don't let fear of heights stop me from being in high up places. I might stand a little further back, but I'll still do it. And next week's conversation is going to be, and actually this is really good because it talks about your voice, brand consistency across channels. So, maintaining that quality and voice across all the channels so that you don't confuse your audience, because like we said, people trust a human, right? And they want your honesty. So, all right, everyone, have a great weekend. Bye.
And if you want more straight talk, beginner-friendly, BS-free online and affiliate marketing tips, make sure you subscribe. We drop new episodes every Friday because structure keeps us from falling into chaos.
And don't forget the notification bell, because YouTube apparently needs 3 separate requests before it will let members know that we actually exist.
And if you want to hang out with us elsewhere, all of our links are in the description. We got TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, basically all the places you go when you're supposed to be working.
So thanks for spending your time with us today. Go refill your mug, go build something awesome, and we will see you next week.